think a lot of people would make more sense of what we talk about at Nomad Capitalist if it were not just about money, but about meaning. I remember for me in 2006, feeling really connected in this odd way to the Norwegian ancestry that I had, so much so that I went and got the only Norwegian language kit that I could find at the time, which was 8 cassettes. And I found some way at a radio station I was working with to put these cassettes onto to CD and then to play the CD in my car, and spent a year and a half learning Norwegian. And my first big overseas trip as a young adult entrepreneur was to Norway, where I promptly got off the train from the airport, asked someone where the street my hotel was on, and he looked up from sweeping the ground and said, you go down there and turn left to the 3rd Street. And feeling heartbroken in a sense that, hey, I'm Norwegian too. I'm 1/8 Norwegian. I want to be accepted, and I learned your language. But I'm not really from here, and so you just spoke to me in English. But that was the first trip, and it was the first time I really started to look around and see how things were different outside of the United States in a way that I never had when traveling as a child, and realizing that people are different, banks are different, markets are different, opportunities are different. The biggest thing for me on that trip was meeting someone. I met a girl, and I remember I had been on dates before, but in the United States, it was always, starting a business at 19, 20, it was always weird because your friends would invite you out to bars, and they'd be talking to different people, and they'd be like, why are you wearing cufflinks? Like, why are you running a business? You're young, why aren't you getting drunk and getting laid and having fun all the time? And I remember being 23 and in Norway and talking to people, including this girl, who were from other places, and just feeling this great sense of connectedness that no one was there was a totally different culture. Being on the metro and talking to people about the U.S. presidential election coming up, who knew more about the U.S. presidential election than anyone where I was living in the United States at the time. And that was the beginning. People think that Nomad Capitalist started because I didn't want to pay tax. I was no doubt a libertarian as a kid, but once I started making money, somehow it just became like, okay, well now I'm making money, so now it's real, and okay, you have to pay tax. I don't like it, but what are you gonna do? I wanted to figure out where I could go to find meaning and to make the most of life, and that's where it started. I spent some time with that girl, and eventually she was the one who motivated me to say, who cares if anyone wants to travel with you? Who cares if you have to go and see the world on your own? You don't need anyone to go with you. You don't need anyone's permission. And I started traveling more and more and more. I had a business partner at the time, and I said, this business is pretty location independent. Like, I'm just gonna check in with you from wherever. I'm gonna check in with you from Italy or from China or from Malaysia or from Hong Kong, and I hope you're okay with that. But I kept the businesses, I kept stuff, and I actually kept making more investments in the US at the time because I hadn't figured out what to do yet. And I remember at one point calling a guy, a tax lawyer in the United States, and saying like, hey, I'm doing a lot of traveling, and I heard that there's like this foreign earned income exclusion. I remember hearing about that when I was a kid, and how do I set myself up so maybe I can pay less? I knew nothing about any of this offshore stuff at the time, and he said, if you pay me, I think it was like $15,000. He's like, I'll put a whole opinion letter and a package together, and I'll tell you everything you need to know. And I got really upset with him. And I went out and I spent a couple more years paying more than I needed to pay and never really fully committing to the lifestyle that I wanted to commit to. But I was learning. And I was meeting lawyers, I was meeting accountants, I was meeting investors and entrepreneurs who started businesses. I met a guy who started a multi-million-dollar chain of restaurants in Southeast Asia. I met the president of a major global British bank in Vietnam. just met lots of people and took notes and really understood what made the world move. It was that quest for meaning, for doing something beyond the boundaries that I knew. And so I think that's the piece that a lot of people are missing, is that you can't have meaning outside of what you know. For me, the reason I push people so much to get their tax stuff working, to get their offshore plan going, is because I spent years dawdling. Even after that tax lawyer said, pay me $15,000 and I'll give you the whole plan, everything you need to know, I went back to doing what I knew. As they say, returned to fine. I went back and within the next month or 2 months, would have paid whatever I would have paid him to solve that problem. I went back to doing it because I was afraid and I wasn't committed. And I didn't entirely know where I was going. And now, close to a dozen years later, it all makes sense. I think that the missing piece for a lot of people is how to create that meaning, how to create that life overseas, living as a citizen of the world that works for them. They worry, what happens when I have kids? The kids can't live anywhere else. They have to go back to Australia, to the US, to Canada. The kids, they'll melt if we keep them anywhere else. They're afraid that they'll never find the person to be with. They're afraid that of all kinds of things. And what I would say to those people is the meaning is all around you. That when you allow yourself to get outside of your comfort zone and realize that not all of the good things in the world happen where you're from, that you can make it. When you have confidence in yourself that you can create a life the way I had, hopefully a lot faster than I did, hopefully without all the complications that I did. That's what I help people do every day, is accelerate that pace from a decade to a year or two and get where they need to be. And because I understand that. I understand where they're going, but understanding that you can create your own meaning. If there's something that you're seeking where you feel like, this part of my life, I feel like it should be better. I feel like I should be getting a better return on my investments. I feel like my bank should be treating me better. I feel like the people I'm dating, I could do better. Somewhere out there, my philosophy of go where you're treated best, there's probably somewhere that you could get what you're looking for to create that meaning. It's about the money for many people. The money for me was always a nice side benefit, but it was the goal of going where I fit in, finding the best of everything, never settling, never living a mediocre life that drove me. I won't judge you if the money is your only motivation or even your main motivation. There are certainly plenty of people who go offshore just because they want to pay less tax and they figure eventually they'll have saved enough and they'll come back. But for me, the journey is what makes it all worth it. And when people said that I renounced my US citizenship, they said, oh, he's just doing it for tax. I look back now, over a year later, and I look at a country that I no longer have to claim as my own, a country that no longer gave me what I needed. That may not be the story for you, but you can write your own story to live this life. Meaning and money, the two can go hand in hand. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7 figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.